4th down and goal from the 9. Carr throws into traffic. Intercepted. The Bengals have the ball. They are running it back. Sam Hubbard.
Stanford Jennings is going to go all the way. And when it comes down, the Bengals are champions.
Now the Bengals Super Bowl chances rest on his right foot. The kick is up. It is good.
Today, Bengal fans, here we gather, talking football back for year 5. We're covering all things Houday Nation. We're glad you joined us here tonight. Special guests, past and present players. You never know who you might see. One thing that's for sure, it's all things Bengals. And it all goes back to charity. We at Talking Football want to thank you for joining us for the show tonight. By the fans, for the fans, until the very end. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends.
What's up, everybody? We still got free agents out there. The draft is done. Thank goodness. No more mock drafts now for at least a couple more weeks until they start them for next year. But, guys, I didn't even say anything pre-show, but this week is our 5th anniversary, guys, on the show here, man. So we're starting season 6 already, man. It's just crazy. That April draft when Joe Burrow was drafted in Las Vegas in 2020, we had planned on going out to the draft, and unfortunately we couldn't. COVID stopped it, so we decided to do a virtual draft party that night. And I think we had over 2,000 live viewers that night for the first time, and we've been doing it ever since, guys. But a big show tonight, Tom. So we got some good guests on here this evening.
Got an outstanding guest. We got Ben Baby. We got Junior Jimenez, who is going to join us. He is the doctor of defensive line studies. And I'm glad that we've communicated with him and talked to him, and he's going to be a lot of fun, especially with what the Bengals did in the draft. But, guys, love the draft, hate the draft. The draft should be a springboard of optimism going into the next year. How did you guys see it from Thursday night on?
Jimmy, I'll let you go first.
In the 90s, when I used to have 7 draft publications, I used to get so upset and so excited about these guys. And at the end of the day, what I've learned at that point in time through that decade of the 90s is you got to let these guys play. No matter what all the other folks say and do, we'll find out here in the year what kind of if these guys contribute or not. So I know where James stands. Go ahead, James. Fire away, buddy.
No, here's my quick take. We drafted 2 offensive linemen. So protect Joe, I think, is a narrative that I've been screaming all off season. And to get a guard, whether he's going to play left or right side, and then an offensive tackle that can potentially be a swing tackle or play one of the guard positions, great. Now on the other ones, here's my thoughts. We could have got the same guys, potentially traded back, but you never know. This is it's the NFL draft, and we got our guys, but it was awful ironic that teams traded on both sides of us basically in every round. I'm not going to slam the players. I think they look good on paper. If you look at the first round draft pick, the lack of sacks maybe is a red flag to a lot of people, or not closing the deal. Certainly the pressures are there, but it's too early. All of us as Bengal fans are going to support him, and the jury's still out. But looking at it from 30,000 foot, we got 2 guys to protect Joe. So for that, it's a B-, C, and we'll see what happens. But look forward to talking to Ben. Look forward to talking to Junior and getting their thoughts and seeing where we're at. So another great night. The draft is behind us. Now it's football ahead of us.
Yeah, Tom, before you introduce Ben here, Ben's in the waiting room. We got a bunch of FOCO hats tonight to give away. Just 2 tonight, but we got some other ones we'll be doing giveaways on social media. We're going to figure out how tonight to give these away. So myself, Tom, and James will figure out a way to do that, and we'll talk some others. We'll talk Jungle Jam and some other stuff here in a little bit. Tom, we only had Ben for 15 minutes, so go ahead and introduce Ben if you could, bud.
He's been covering the Bengals for a while now and a great friend of the show. His coverage is elite as far as how any football writer covers any team in the nation. And we can say this without fear of getting yelled at because it's after 8 o'clock now and James Rapine is asleep. He no longer fears any chill or cold in Cincinnati. He's completely immune to that. And we thank him so much on such a big weekend where he hasn't gotten much sleep. We thank Ben Baby for joining us. So, Ben, welcome back to Bengal Jim and Friends.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very excited to catch up on sleep here very soon, but a very interesting draft weekend to say the least, but always fun. Can't believe I think it's my sixth one, potentially fifth. I'm not sure. I think 2020 was officially my first draft, but yeah, it's crazy. Another one in the books.
So everybody knows Ben runs a lot around town. My wife and I are out walking all the time. I think it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Ben's running by us on the bridge. He was running about a 4.340. He was flying, man. So I know he can run. So nobody could catch this guy. Ben, I'm surprised you didn't get drafted this week, but probably just not as physical as they want you to be, man.
I think we needed to do RAS testing for the entire beat, see how that would go. We need to start ranking beat writers, just have him go, he's the 20th fastest out of all 400 beat writers in the country. We need to get that going.
I love it. I love
some of those guys, you'd time their 40 with a sundial, but that's okay.
Well, hey, let's get it going here. Ben, we appreciate you being with us tonight, man. We were kind of texting earlier today, and what not a good or bad, but just an unusual offseason here, including the draft maybe not going the way a lot of fans maybe expected to go. But Tom, fire away here, man, and let's get this going here.
Ben, Thursday night, you were safe inside Paycor Stadium, but for those of us that were outside of it, the sky was falling. It was over. It was the end. And then kind of slowly everybody saw. I think there was some expectations. I think somebody wanted a shinier, sexier pick. But this was, I think, with the way the Bengals board was set up and how they saw things falling together, this was their guy. They didn't settle on him till a little later than usual, but this was their guy, and they were excited to get him. How do you see him fitting into this new Al Golden defense? And is he the guy to give the defense the spark it needs?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big question is can he deliver in, obviously when you look at the athletic numbers, Shamar Stewart just jumps off the board. I think the guy who recruited him at A&M, the late Terry Price, I knew him pretty well from back when I covered A&M, developed Myles Garrett, developed guys you never would have heard of, like the Landis Durhams, the Deshaun Halls of the world were putting up double-digit sack totals at A&M when they were there and didn't really do much else afterwards. And so I think that Terry had a really good eye for talent. A&M, Mike Elko did a really good job of finding a lot of guys, investing a lot in that defensive line. And talking to McKinley Jackson last year, he had a lot of high praise for all those guys that he played with at A&M. I know that Shamar Stewart was happy to be reunited with his guy Mac, but I think that production is going to be there, and he's going to be under a lot of pressure early, and that's a tough spot to be in. I don't envy him one bit, knowing that, he's going to have to go put up numbers that he didn't put up in college. And, it's not always easy to be a defensive end specifically and try to find that footing because offensive tackles are so good in the league. They know what kind of moves you're going to end up seeing, and you really have to have a detailed plan. Can he get that done quickly? I think that's going to be the big question for him this season.
James?
Looking at it, Ben, obviously Al Golden is the new puzzle piece for the Bengals coming in with some history, but at Notre Dame last year. Reading the tea leaves, it appears there's going to be a totally different defense. Is that what you're seeing, what you're hearing in the trenches there that, hey, we've got some pieces here, with whether it's Knight, whether it's Stewart here, we're going to give the other side of the ball some different looks that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I think I'm curious to see how exactly Al is going to line up. I think he wants to play base 4-3, but obviously everyone's going to be in a lot of nickels. So that third linebacker really won't be on the field all that much, maybe with the exception of, like he said, when you play the Ravens, which is nothing new for them. So I think maybe some wrinkles here and there. The biggest thing is how simple it's going to be. Is he going to let his guys play fast? Can he develop some of the younger players, get them up to speed quickly? That's going to be the big thing that he'll be judged on. And can they get this defense playing cohesively, much like Lou did towards the end of last season? Unfortunately for Lou and the Bengals, just a little too late. But I think that there's a lot of confidence what Al Golden can do. You heard a lot about his vision from not only Duke Tobin, but Zach Taylor this week. So they are entrusting him to have a clear and defined plan for all these guys coming into the building. And I think that's going to be as big as anything. I think some of these rookies in the last few years, their role hasn't been totally defined. And I think when these guys coming in, whether it be Shamar Stewart, whether it be Demetrius Knight, some of the other younger players, even, the Dax Hills of the world, the Josh Newtons, having them understand what they're going to do, what they're going to, be asked of on a daily basis, I think is just as critical.
100%. If you're looking at the draft from probably a 30,000-foot view, there's a lot of talk of maybe our guys that we drafted, maybe no knock on them, just obviously positions of need, specifically looking at, hey, we protected Joe. We got 2 more new guys on that offensive line, but maybe the sentiment amongst fans were we could have got those guys trading back. Would you agree with that, Ben, that, hey, the guys we got, we probably could have traded back, got those picks, because knowing we only had 6 guys in this draft, again, the same talent, trading back and gotten the same guys. Would you agree with that sentiment?
I think it's hard to trade back really in later rounds. It just depends on what you want. And really, when you look at it, teams, there has to be an appetite to move up, and there has to be teams, there are a reason for them to move up, especially if they feel like there's a position that could go off the board quickly. They want to go ahead and they've really locked in on a guy on their draft board. Are they willing to? Then you have to negotiate compensation. So even to get the right situations, I think it takes a lot of factors to all fall in line. Zach Taylor said that they entertained some calls about potentially trading back. I know that they would have liked to add a couple picks because they only had 6, gave up that 7th for Khalil Herbert last year. That just didn't end up coming to fruition. The Demetrius Knight pick, I think, was the one that we all wondered about. And Zach felt like, they were picking in the 3rd round, they didn't feel like Knight was going to be available in the 3rd, so they went ahead and used that 2nd. They felt really good about Dylan Fairchild, that he would be, not necessarily he would be available, but I think they liked where they were at. And I think that's probably a higher priority, inside the building, getting a linebacker to potentially start day one, aside from Logan Wilson. So I understand why they did what they did, but I understand also why the fans are wondering kind of what the decision-making was. But obviously linebacker, a massive position of need, and could help, fit some pieces in later on this offseason as well, depending on how the cap looks.
Yeah. Ben, look, man, you're known, very well respected in Bengals land here, but you're also known not to pull punches, right? You ask very direct questions. In your opinion, man, this offseason, have they done enough? I know there's still some free agents out there, some guards that are out there. I really don't like starting, a guard, 2 guards at, rookie guards, but have they done enough this offseason as of today with the free agency and the draft? What's your thought?
Yeah, I think that they are putting all their chips in the Joe Burrow basket. And I think that when you say, okay, we're going to go out, we're going to give him his playmakers. We're going to give him T. Higgins. We're going to give him Jamar Chase. We're going to bring back Mike Gesicki. We're going to try to get the line a little bit better, try to figure out. I honestly don't think the defense is honestly that far off. They figured it out towards the end of last year, and it wasn't really anything complex. They really just played more man defense and simplified things, and they won 5 straight games. Had they just done that a little bit earlier, we're probably talking about a team that wins at least 1 playoff game, given how well they look. And so I think the big priority was always going to be, can you get T? Can you get Jamar? And the fact that they were able to go out and get those, I think that is the big thing that really dictated how the rest of the offseason looked, how the rest of the money looked. And can you get, if you get Trey done at some point this offseason, I think it's going to change the tenor of how you view things. And I think it's just the nature of having a team that's willing to spend on those big positions, quarterback, and then really two receivers, which I think you can question, is that the right move? But, I think that they're confident that, Joe is going to find a way to make it work. Joe's stumped for those guys to be on the field. And I think you've got to trust his vision. I think a lot of the responsibility on how this team looks now is going to be on his shoulders as well. But, I think that they have done an adequate job given the financial constraints that they were under. I think that, when you look at it, could they have been a little bit more aggressive in how they manage the cap? Sure. But I think that for them, they want to make sure that they're a little bit more flexible in future years, that they're able to be, to be flexible even in this year if they need to. So I don't think that there's anything. I think we'll have to figure it out as the year goes on. But really, when you look at it, I'm not seeing any glaring misses that they have, because honestly, it's so hard to navigate once you have those receiver contracts done and then you have your quarterback as well at that high of a price point. So I think it's hard to knock them, but they have to go out and nail the draft. And I think if they don't do that, these guys don't contribute immediately, then we're going to start asking some serious questions come the fall.
Draft aside, Ben, looking at free agency, would you not agree that come training camp, the Trey situation needs to be resolved? We need to, whatever it is, $15 million signing bonus. So we don't have the Jamar Chase 2.0 like we had last year, of kind of a hold-in per se. I think if you look at the offseason, they've addressed some needs. We brought guys back. Certainly we would like to protect Joe. The draft is what the draft is. But looking forward now, saying everything's an A+ since the end of the season. The biggest question mark from today, which is April 27th, moving forward, is, hey, we have to get Trey happy, put that to bed, and then move forward with the upcoming season.
Yeah, I think I'm very curious to see where this pans out, because I think the Bengals could find a way to free up, because of how they drafted, to be honest, could free up some money to move around and potentially give to Trey this year, maybe accelerate some cash into this year's cap so that they're able to go out and make that happen, give Trey a potential long-term deal to keep him happy. And also, Trey's market, as we've seen, will probably soften now. There's not going to be a dire need to go out and get him. Teams aren't going to be willing to go out and break the bank and say, we'll pay you X amount of dollars now that we're through the draft. So, can they now meet in the middle? I think that's maybe what the front office has been viewing this entire time, seeing how this was going to play out, and see if they can't find a way to get Trey. If Trey can kind of come down a little bit, and Trey's never been asking for the moon, to be clear. But if they can find a middle ground, I think that's going to be huge for them moving forward. And I agree. I think getting this knocked out is going to be huge. There's a reason Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they've got their workout bonuses in that new contract. That was the big concession that they gave. And they said, all right, the team said, we're going to give you this money, but we want you here in the spring. We're going to give you a reason to be here in the spring, but it's for a reason. So that way we're all on the same page so we can start fast in the fall. Getting Trey, getting that whole situation resolved one way or another, I think is going to be paramount. So you can say, okay, let's focus on the task at hand. And I think everybody inside that building knows a sense of urgency to start well this year, given how it's looked really under the entirety of the Zach era.
Tom?
Ben, getting back to Sanders a little bit, the only complaint about him was certainly he's athletic enough. Looks like he's strong enough. Looks like he can defend the run. He can get after the quarterback. He can pressure the quarterback. He can cause incompletions and so forth. But in the AFC North, quarterbacks we think we're going to play, and certainly we're going to play in Baltimore twice. When you're chasing Lamar Jackson, you can't pressure him. You got to put him down. What are you hearing from the coaches? What needs to be refined? What are they looking from him to become that consistent starter? Not 17 sacks a year, but defend the run on that side of the ball and get 8, 9, maybe even double-digit sacks.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, for Shamar Stewart, that's going to be a tough ask, to be honest, getting double-digit sacks as a rookie. Maybe if you can get good play from the interior as well, I think it's going to be, can TJ Slayton, BJ Hilkin, those interior guys be disruptive, free up your edge rushers for more one-on-one situations. I think that's going to be just as important, getting development from Chris Jenkins, and McKinley Jackson if they continue to ascend. And there's a lot of optimism that those guys can be better which I think you see how they attacked this year, defensive tackle specifically. I think that is a sign as any that they feel good about where those guys are at. But if they continue to move up and really start to make progress in their careers, that should help Shamar potentially with some one-on-ones on the edge. We asked him, I asked him point blank, said, listen, I think there's a lot of fans who are concerned with the lack of sacks. Like, excuse me, what do you have to say about that? And the big thing was, he said, just got to refine the technique a little bit, really, have to be better about running through the quarterback and wrapping up. I wondered, when I looked through it, he fit the athletic profile. Sorry, excuse me. But that missed tackle rate he had at A&M was really concerning. That has to come down this year.
Yep. Ben, I know we got you for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes here. I guess outside the top 3 draft picks, Stewart, Knight, and Fairchild, are there any picks you're intrigued about how they're going to do this year and or potentially could contribute more than what people were thinking? Any of the free agent pickups, undrafted free agents, or any of the other draft picks?
Yeah, Dylan Fairchild, I think there's going to be a lot on his plate. Come in, be an immediate day one starter at left guard. If he can kind of win that job, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Cordell Volson. His cap hit and the cap savings they would get, would they want to move that money elsewhere? Cordell, I think, had a rough year last year. I think you're hoping that maybe under Scott Peters, who everybody absolutely loves inside the building, you can tell he's a different kind of offensive line coach. He's not as authoritarian as maybe some of the other guys they've had in the past. And I feel like guys, especially during the pre-draft process, you talk to Dylan, you talk to Jalen Rivers, who they also drafted in the 5th round. Had a lot of great things to say about his demeanor, about him being laid back. And Scott's a very unique guy. Can he get the most out of these younger guys? Can he connect? I think that's going to be important. I'm interested to see what Taj Brooks brings to the table. I know his college coach really well, Joey McGuire, back at my first job. He was still coaching high schools in the Dallas area, been at Texas Tech for a few years. I texted him on Saturday, really excited about Taj and the fit here in Cincinnati. And Taj, I think, was interesting. When we talked to him, he said that he's got violent hands in pass pro. You don't really hear a lot of running backs talk that way. And, it's interesting. I've known the way that they like to play ball. They play true Texas out and out ball out there. My guy, Jeff Hobson's going to hate how much he did not line up under center in college and really in high school, but that's going to fit him, serve him really well. He's been in shotgun basically his entire life, knows what it's like to be a gun run quarterback or running back, knows what it's like, what's required of you in pass pro. And I think that's going to be a really good asset. Eventually, if you can get him and Chase Brown to be a nice dynamic pairing, we'll see what Samaje brings to the table. I'm curious to see where Zach Moss is at. We're hearing, some optimism on what his role might look like this year, when there were a lot of questions, quite frankly, of whether his career was going to continue given that neck injury last year. So Taj at the end in the 6th round, I think that's going to be a pick that we'll kind of keep a close eye on. And if he can contribute, I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah. Well, Ben, bro, I know we told you 15 minutes, man, and we're out of our time, brother. So we really appreciate you being with us, man. You're the best, and thanks for the insight. And let's stay in touch, brother. We got to get together for a drink at some point. Yeah, for sure. Always good talking to y'all. Hopefully, I'll see you on a run here sometime soon, Jim. Absolutely, bro.
Keep that little one in line, Ben. Great seeing you, buddy.
Hey, yeah, good seeing you. I'm trying my best. See y'all.
Be good.
Hey, buddy. Take care.
All righty.
Good to have Ben on, man. He's very in tune with things that are going on. That was kind of interesting to hear his take, guys.
100%. I think looking at this draft from a 30,000-foot view, especially first pick, second pick, there was a lot of natives not happy, and rightfully so. But the jury's still out, regardless. Obviously, these guys are up there, even in consideration, because what they did. You look at Stewart. A freak in numbers. Obviously, the biggest knock on him was the close rate. I think a lot of people have scary flashbacks to John Ross. Look at the combine numbers. Look what he did, fastest, blah blah blah, and obviously that didn't translate to the NFL level. So hopefully, we're going to see a difference in what Shamar does in the numbers and the pressures and his size, his ability versus what he did in college. And certainly there's others in the college ranks that didn't put up the sacks and then did it in the NFL. But, it's okay for the fans to have skepticism. Certainly I'm one of them, that question the pick, but we don't know. So as fans, we're going to cheer them on and hope for the best. But the jury's out, and they have a lot to prove.
I think it's kind of like we mentioned the last couple of weeks. Defensive end / edge is Bengals kryptonite when it comes to the draft. They have missed so many times on defensive ends. In the history of the franchise, Carlos Dunlap, and it took Carlos a couple years to really get it and start producing. Eddie Edwards, and you can also say Ross Browner. But for each of those guys, starting about 1972 when they picked one in the first round, there's just high draft choice miss after miss after miss at that position. So I think that gives me a little cause at the beginning, but we understand now the thought process in taking him. They were very diligent. They know what they want from him. And we do need somebody young at the position. So they pulled the trigger. Same thing in the second round. I told you, I don't even think I told Jimmy. Friday night after the draft, it was up past midnight and there wasn't anybody to talk draft with anymore. So I texted Deep Fried because I knew he'd be up. And I said, what gives with your guy? It was somebody he had mocked to us last year in the third round. I said, what's up with your guy? I said, is that 15, 20 picks too high? And he brought up a very good point. He said the Bengals needed an outside linebacker. The outside linebacker crop dried up very, very fast. He was your last starting quality outside linebacker. He said, could they have gotten him 15, 20 picks later? Maybe. But if they wanted a for sure starter at outside linebacker, they did the right thing taking him where they did. So, I mean, there's no doubt these guys are hungry. The coaching staff seems up on them. And really, I don't know that they used the draft like they could. We watched Baltimore and Cleveland, move around, accumulate extra picks. And of course, Cleveland with that genius move in the 5th round. But, we didn't do that. Did we use the draft as much as we could? Probably not. We didn't get those extra picks. But after the second round, reading some of the comments I'm reading, what was wrong with any pick we made after the second round? There's nothing wrong with the guys we got the first 2 rounds. It was just maybe we could have traded back and picked up something else. It wasn't as shiny or as exciting as everybody thought. But after the second round, what was wrong with any of the guys we got?
I don't think there was anything wrong with any of the guys we got. I think looking at it now and this is the hot topic on social media, we have Joe Burrow. We have a window now. Look at, the offseason. We re-signed Jamar. We re-signed T. The offense is there. It's kind of the win now mentality. And can the guys we drafted in round 1 or round 2 or round 3 step in? You look at the draft and, I think 90% of the teams in the NFL expect round 1 to step in and have an impact. It's not saying they're going to be a Pro Bowler. That's not saying they're going to be an All-Pro. But look at Amarius Mims last year. Again, somebody that didn't have the best track record, limited starts. That was his knock. Look at Shamar Stewart this year. His knock is the amount of sacks. But if you look at Mims, I don't think anybody would look back on last year's draft and say, hey, he wasn't the right guy. But I think now for the Bengals, going to the Super Bowl 3 years ago and the AFC Championship the year after, hey, we're going to win now. We're in a window where Joe Burrow's in his prime. Let's go. We need guys to step in, be an immediate impact, help with the defense, which is obviously the weak part of the team, and let's go. So we got another guest in here that's going to talk about that. That's maybe going to calm our fears, calm our doubts on our picks. So, Tom, perfect segue. Why don't you introduce him?
He is a football coach from out west. He is a defensive line fanatic. He is a professor. He is a mad scientist. He is studying defensive linemen nonstop, and that's why when it was recommended to me that we reached out, Nice guy, hardworking, knows what he's talking about, and has done a lot of study on our new first-round draft pick. So from out on the West Coast, we welcome in Junior Jimenez. He's not there. He is.
What's up, buddy?
Silent, buddy.
You're on mute.
Hi.
There he is.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being with us, buddy. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, and for the Shamar Stewart thing, I did make a 2.5-hour video on him, explaining a lot about him in depth.
Is there any way a normal schlep like us, the guys up in the stands, can get on the internet and watch that?
Yeah, I put it on YouTube. My username's a casual NFL fan.
Okay. So just look you up and punch up. Well, during that 2.5-hour epic motion picture, it'll probably win an Oscar next year, by the way. During that, what did you find out? What were his strengths? What do you like about him? How can he help us get to the Super Bowl?
So the main thing with him is that he could contribute right away as a role player, which doesn't sound too exciting, but in a pass rush, you usually have one guy that gets one-on-ones, and then everyone else does a role like containing, pushing the pocket, or being used on stunts. And he's probably one of the best players I've seen on stunts, especially as a looper. And he can push the pocket. He just has some weird issues that we could talk about later. But he's one of the best athletes to come out. Probably will walk in as a top 10 athlete in the league as an edge. And he's a very aggressive player and just extremely strong in the run game and setting the edge.
So do you think, what is the problem? You heard us probably talking to Ben. Mm-hmm. What is the problem in him finishing on the pass rush? Like I said, we've got Lamar Jackson. Our two biggest games this year, I can tell you now. Don't know when they'll be. If the NFL screws us again, we'll have a Thursday night in Baltimore, but that's my cross to bear. But we'll play the Ravens twice. You just can't harass Lamar Jackson. He will find that extra moment or two to, make a completion to Mark Andrews or whomever and get that first down. Or he will take off. If you blink, he'll take off and boom, he's gone 20, 30 yards down the field. You've got to get him and put him on the ground. What's missing? What's that last link that you would coach him up to have?
So in their defense, it's a little weird because they're taught to, or his role was to contain, whereas you had like Nick Skyron on the other side on his D-line who was taught to more tee off. So because he was more asked to contain, one thing that the whole D-line did when the ball was about to be thrown, they would all put their hands up to knock the ball down. So there's a few times where he's in a winning position, but instead of winning, he's just trying to put his hands up, knock the ball down. QB could just pump fake him and get him to jump, and that stops some of his production. And if he does get to the quarterback, a few times he comes in a bit too high, like he just has performance anxiety when he gets to the quarterback. And he's probably could have had like 8+ sacks if he just finished more, if he wasn't too worried about containing or getting his hands up to swat the ball down, or just coming in just way too fast, way too high, and just completely whiffing on the sacks.
So you coach defensive line, and all the film study you've done, and obviously 2.5 hours on him, very impressive. You think a lot of what has affected his statistics is his coaching and his role that his coaches had him in.
Yeah, so and because he was taught to just contain a lot, it's why like the other guys had better stats and better pressure rates and all that. His win rate was low because he wasn't taught or told to win as much as to contain. And as a player, it's like you're not going to deviate from where your coach says. And one thing that Shamar does a bit too well is listen to coaching, because he almost does coaching points to the extreme. Like he doesn't really try to make plays. Like if a coach says, hey, you're containing, he's just going to contain. Like he's not worried about making a play, or if he's in the winning position just to shut off the blocker and get to the quarterback. He's more worried about I'm just going to contain. That's all I'm going to do. And it's just harder to win when in your mind it's not, I'm going to win and beat this blocker. It's more, I'm just going to contain and try to swat the ball down or do something like that.
James?
If you had to look at Shamar Stewart Jr., what would be your NFL comparison to somebody that's in the league now versus knowing what he's done in college? What you're saying is, hey, what you're seeing on tape isn't his full potential per se because of coaching. So if you had to have an NFL comparison, Junior, who would that be?
He kind of moves a bit similarly to Rashawn Gary, except I think he's a bit more fluid. Just a similar amount of power and explosiveness and speed. And I think for him, so Rashawn Gary, when he pass rushes, all he uses is an inside stab where he just sticks his arm out and it tackles inside chest, inside shoulder pads. And he mainly just works off of one move. And I think if you teach Shamar that, it's going to work out really well, but it takes time to just practice that and become more of a power rusher. And they do move very similarly. So I think just put him in the Rashawn Gary plan and just let him thrive. And for Rashawn Gary, he was training to be a high-end pass rusher until his ACL, and I kind of slowed him down a bit.
Gotcha. If you're looking at, if you're the Bengals there looking back at round one, obviously knowing the needs that we had, Junior, whether it was defensive end, defensive tackle, cornerback, offensive line, would you, if you were in Duke Tobin's shoes, was Shamar Stewart your guy, or looking back at the draft and how it unfolded, was there anybody else that you had on your board potentially at that pick number 17?
So I usually just look at D-line, and Shamar was probably the top edge on my board. But just the way I look at D-line, it's more of what you can do now and what you could do within your rookie contract, because it's hard to project like 4+ years in the future. Mm-hmm. And so with him, because of his athletic traits, he can become a high-end pass rusher versus some other guys where they might just be a guy you could build your pass rush around, but not be a high-end version of it. And right now, he could do a lot of role player stuff off the bat, be a high-end run defender, be good on stunts, be good at containing and pushing the pocket. And that just gives you a ton of value off the right away. And even for edges, it's hard to get starting snaps or 50% snaps or more. Like usually it's like 3 to 5 guys a year, and he can do that right away.
Looking at the say defensive front as a whole, Junior. Obviously, we had Derek Harmon drafted 4 picks later to Pittsburgh. You had Walter Nolan drafted just before. Looking at somebody that would give pressure on that defensive front, where was Shamar Stewart versus Walter Nolan, versus Shamar Stewart, versus Mike Green, versus James Pierce? Tell us where you had him ranked versus those other guys that were available, certainly available, other than Walter Nolan, when the Bengals drafted at 17.
On the D-line with the guys that were there, I probably would have them in the same tier as Walter Nolan. I think for the Bengals, I would rather have Shamar, just because he's that one type of player that can end up being a guy you build your pass rush around, even if it takes 2 or 3 years or a bit longer than someone like an Abdul Carter or mainly just Abdul Carter. And for someone like Walter Nolan, even though he does have pass rush shoes, for building a pass rush, it's harder to build it around the D team. It takes a lot more work because you have to free them up over a guard. You have to create space inside, which takes you walking up linebackers, blitzing, doing all of that. Whereas for an edge, you can just be like, hey, line up here, just tee off, boom, one-on-one created. That's why a lot of teams build their pass rushes around edges. And so I think it's better just to try to find a guy with that elite athleticism to build their pass rush around versus a DT, but Nolan's still a really nice player.
So if you were in Duke Tobin's shoes, sitting at 17, knowing Derek Harmon's available, knowing Shamar Stewart's available, you would pull the trigger on Shamar Stewart?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Interesting.
Jimmy?
Yeah, Junior, I guess if you're okay, I would like to go to some other I know we beat Shamar thing here. I mean, that's been a topic of discussion since the very first night of the pick Thursday, right? That's all we've been talking about here. But In the offseason, the Bengals did have a pretty good, I think, an underrated free agent pickup here. And TJ Slayton from Green Bay, who's really going to help the team out. Any insight on him and how he's going to be able to help the Bengals this year?
So I watched a few Bengals games, especially towards the end of the year. And it's true with a lot of teams where your starters, it's like the run defense looks good. When it's time to pass rush, it might look pretty good. But when the backups come in, there's a huge drop-off, especially in the run game. And with the Bengals, it was tough for him because he had B.J. Hill, and he were starting Chris Jenkins or had McKinley Jackson playing or Zach Carter. And especially early on for the rookies, they weren't that up to NFL level yet. So when they went from the starters to the backup on the DT spot, there was a huge drop-off. But getting TJ Slayton, who could play nose tackle, who on early downs could move around a bit, two gap, take on double teams pretty well. Like he's going to help out their run defense. And then your backups might end up being Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson, who towards the end of the year, they started playing a lot better. Even if it was a little inconsistent, which happens with rookies, they got a lot better just taking on double teams, reacting to the blocks in front of them, and reading their keys and all that.
Gotcha. Tom?
One of the things that, possible difference in philosophy, because we really don't know for certain what kind of defense we are going to end up with this year. We came from a philosophy of get that pocket, hold the pocket, push it in, suffocate the quarterback. Don't let him out of the pocket where he can run. Are you a proponent of that, or do you think with the guys we have, Hendrickson, Asai, another first-round pick, Miles Murphy, now Sanders, it's just pin your ears back and go get him, guys?
I kind of more prefer the pushing the pocket and making the QB just feel nervous in it, versus the just shooting gaps, just go every single time, just penetrating through, versus just playing gap and a half or playing the blocks in front of you. Because some of the teams that do a lot of that one gap stuff and just going, it's like the teams like the Houston Texans or the San Francisco 49ers. And even though the defense can get you a lot of TFLs and sacks, it hurts you in the run game. And you can see with the Niners where they try to get a bit more serious with their draft this year. Like they got Michael Williams, CJ West, Alfred Collins, who are more of those real run defenders, not true just go one gappers. And I think to be more consistent, it's a lot better just to push the pocket, have one guy tee off, and everyone else just try to force the QB into your guy that's teeing off, which would be Trey Hendrickson.
Okay, fair enough. James?
No, Junior, I appreciate you joining us. Looking overall at the draft, obviously the linemen, I thought anything to protect Joe was a big plus. Look at the running back. I don't know. There's a lot of running backs available. I'm not so high on it. I look at running backs like outfielders in baseball. They're a dime a dozen. But anyways, going back to the defensive side with addressing the defensive edge, it seems like Al Golden, reading between the tea leaves between Al Golden, Zach Taylor, what we're hearing, there's going to be a different type of defense implemented in Cincinnati where you never know who's going to blitz you. Shamar might move inside. One of the linebackers might move outside, kind of in that Micah Parsons role. Is that what you envision? Is that what you're seeing? Or do you see something totally different? And it's hard. But what you see, from the offseason, bringing Al in and hearing what Zach and Al have to say.
Yeah, so I know Al Golden said something about how he wants to be able to play a 4-3 and end up being able to play in a 4-2, 3-3, 3-4. Yeah. And I read one of Bengals Sands pieces on Al Golden's defense, and it's more of a 4-3 or 4-2 defense. And I think he tried to build towards that with taking two linebackers and having more options to run a true 4-3 with Akeem Davis Gaither leaving and just only having Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson. And in his defense, he had one edge that was more of a stand-up edge, and I think that might be Trey Hendrickson, because there's a few snaps where he's in a 2-point stance and able to tee off, whereas the other D linemen are just more playing the run and containing and pushing the pocket when it comes to pass. And Shamar's already done that at A&M, where you had Nick Skyron as a stand-up edge who's teeing off, and then he's on the other side just playing the run, playing the contain, playing the push the pocket. So their roles won't really change as much. I think it's an easy fit. And he does run a bit more of a react attack defense, where you just read what's in front of you and then you play through it versus just shooting gaps. And a lot of the players that they brought in kind of fit that, like McKinley Jackson and Shamar played at A&M, which runs that. Chris Jenkins played at Michigan, which did a similar type of thing. And then TJ Slayton could do that as a nose tackle.
Jimmy, let's wrap him up. Appreciate it.
Let Tom. Let go ahead and Tom wrap this up, man. Go ahead, Tom.
Junior, thank you so much. So, one final question as you go. Yeah. Implementing a new defense, which, like I said, we really don't know for certain what it is. We're hearing it's a completely new defense. Mm-hmm. Implementation time. The defense has not been good here the last several years. Is that going to be a hindrance from getting us from that, 27, 28, 29th ranked defense and getting it up to 17th, 16th, 15th? Because if we were healthy and our defense is ranked 17th or 16th and the offense is healthy, like I said, nobody wants to play the Bengals. Mm-hmm. What do you think the implementation time on a new defense is going to be?
I think it might take like a quarter of the season, or maybe at most like half a year, just because a lot of starters don't play in preseason. So it might take a bit longer. But one thing that helps is just having a D-line full of younger players in their second year and just veterans who could play the run really well. So that's going to help your back end, your linebackers, and your DBs who kind of seemed to struggle last season.
All right, fair enough. Well, Junior, thank you so much. I know we talked. You're a busy man. Look forward to following you. And tell everybody again, how can they find you on social media, and where can we watch your study on our new first-round draft choice?
Yeah, so my name's a casual NFL fan on Twitter and YouTube, and I have a 2.5-hour video on Shamar on YouTube if you want to watch it.
And Junior, we'll share that for you as well, buddy.
All right. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks, Junior.
Thanks a ton.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, man.
Nice young man. High school defensive line coach.
I think if you look at this draft, Tom, Jimmy, obviously the fan sentiment from day one, Thursday night, first now, has been skepticism, questioning, and rightfully so. I think you look at this, and I mentioned this with Junior, is we're a team that wants to get to the Super Bowl. We're a team that wants to get to the AFC Championship. And did we address it? I don't know if we were going to address it all the way in the draft. We wanted to fill some holes, maybe back up some positions. I think if you're looking at a guy in round 4, that's potentially not an immediate starter anyways. Maybe that's a backup role. But I think if you look at this draft versus any draft we've done in the last 5 years, it was different. I think you go into this draft saying, hey, I bet the Bengals are going to draft 2 linebackers. I think everybody would say, no, maybe one at best. If you went and said, hey, we're going to draft 2 offensive linemen, I think everybody would have said, yeah, that's needed, but that's a position of need. But I probably don't see that happening. Looking at running back, for example, who knows what's going to happen with Zach Moss. Chase Brown, we know, has been great. Behind him is not there. But knowing as deep as it is, again, and that's my philosophy, running backs are a dime a dozen, get one in undrafted free agency. So this draft, I think a lot of people give it a C, which personally I would do. And time will tell, but I don't know. It didn't wow anybody. Let's just say that. Nobody's sitting back and saying, "Man, we nailed this draft. Man, we've got that starting defensive end. Hey, we've got that starting strong safety. We've got whatever." But the jury's still out, and it's okay to have a C because we don't know. I mean, we can get an A and then fail a year down the road. But I think there's a lot of skepticism looking at, hey, Miles Murphy was kind of a question mark. Did we develop him? Looking back, Dax Hill, we moved him around, never had a true position for him. Looking back at last year, Marius Mims, 100% question mark. Hey, this kid's only started 8 games in the collegiate level. But you know what? Guess what? We plugged him in after week 3, and the kid did a great job. So nobody knows. But, again, looking at 30,000 foot view, I think we give the draft a C, but we know it can certainly improve. Tom, what am I missing here?
A C might, B minus C might be there. Like I said, we didn't get that shiny, exciting toy.
Yep.
But we got guys we can use. We got guys that will help the team win. Let me ask both of you this question. What if in the first round we'd have taken Mike Green? I think this town would have melted down. The people that don't have a problem hating on the Bengals for the most part are hating on the Bengals. The glass half empty people are doing their glass half empty thing. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. I want them to win desperately, but I like to think I'm also pretty real. I think this was an effective draft. I really don't see any questions after round 2. And the guys we got in the first 2 rounds, I loved. Like I said, I just kind of get the feeling we could have gotten them a little later.
100%, Tom. I agree. I think any of the guys you look at, and again, I'm going to let you continue, but any of the guys we drafted, I think we could have traded back, gotten the same guys. And again, looking last year, we had 10 picks, used them all, didn't trade up. Even if we picked up 1 pick in this draft, I think it would have been a win. And I think there's not a guy you can look at in this draft that we couldn't have gotten by trading back.
But what happens if we'd have taken Mike Green in their first, or even traded back and picked Mike Green, or picked James Pierce with all the warning sirens and red lights going on around them? What would the fan base have been like then? So I don't think you picked to please the fan base. They honestly picked guys that they thought would help them win and get them in positions where they're going to need guys also into the future. So
here's the thing, Tom. If you look at this draft class from a 30,000 foot view, I think if you looked at them from somebody that you wanted to date your daughter, A+. I think you look at the character guys. Look at the linebacker from South Carolina who went and worked Uber Eats, whatever you want to call it after. I think these guys are high character guys. And again, I think there's a question mark. There's a blemish always. You look at the Marvin days with the questionable character guys that were drafted in that era. Even look back to last year. Look at Jermaine Burton. How has that turned out for us? It's been an absolute shit show. So if you look at this year's draft from a character perspective, whether it's, guys that go the extra mile, the team captain, the guys that are A+ on the report cards, we nailed it 100%. Whether that's going to translate to the football field, I think that jury's still out. And again, if you're going to lean to a questionable Shamar Stewart versus Mike Green, especially where we're drafted, I'm okay with going with the more character guy, 100%. I'm not going to knock you on that. James Pierce had questions, who was drafted later. And the one thing us as fans don't know is the medicals that are the team doctors are looking at behind the scenes. That's another huge variable that, may be a red flag to a lot of these teams' doctors, and maybe why the linebacker from Alabama wasn't drafted in the top 20.
Who I wanted.
And flew and slid to 32. So there's so many variables in this draft. But again, if you look at character guys, give this draft an A+.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll do this. It's easy for you guys to say because both of you only have sons. I'm the only one with a daughter. So,
let me
that was part of our prenup. That was part of our prenup stuff.
I want to add something. I'm going to just
say, allowed.
Obviously, I'm getting text messages right now. Surely James needs a cookie or some ice cream.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of text messages right now. This is hilarious. So James didn't like the draft. Here's what I'm just going to say about it is.
Get off James' lawn.
Here's what I'm going to say about it. James, me, Tom, or all the social media draft experts, which they're not.
Look at Elizabeth's comment here. And again, you don't know. I mean, a kid could have, had Achilles injury back in high school, but, I think it's along what Elizabeth's saying here, where there's smoke, there's fire, whether it's a character issue, whether it's an injury issue. A lot of those things do not go away. And again, look at Munoz. Okay, there's the exact opposite. Injuries in college. The guy ended up being a Hall of Famer. So there's exceptions to the rule, but if you want to err on the side of caution, then that's what we do.
Stupid history story. I'll keep it brief, Jimmy. You know the story about when they drafted Anthony, at least one version that we're told, James. They knew about his injuries. He only played, 3 games his senior year at SC, Jimmy? It was either 2 or 3.
I think that's a rumor. Whatever it is, it's
because of his knees, which ultimately never gave him a problem. It was his shoulders that he was always having worked on in the pros. But anyway, so the Bengals send their scouts out. They just hired Forrest Gregg. They send their scouts out to the Rose Bowl where he's going to play against Ohio State. And at one of their homes, one of the Browns' homes, Paul, Mike, and Pete get together to watch the Rose Bowl. And I guess a little bit into the game, Paul starts chuckling, and the boys start almost giggling. They're just watching Munoz destroy everybody. And that, in large part, that and a visit with Forrest Gregg, cemented him as the guy. But, yeah, I can remember when he was drafted. There were a ton of questions. How can the Bengals draft this guy? He's never going to play. Blah, blah, blah. But, and he might be the greatest athlete in the history of the city. So,
yeah. Going back to the draft, I at the end of the day, nobody in the screen knows. No viewer right now knows. We'll find out early in the season if these guys are going to be able to contribute and what kind of draft this is. Sometimes it's going to take a couple years for us to decide what this draft is. So I'm not going to sit here and bash it or praise it. I don't know. I used to do that back in the 90s, and I got sick of getting too excited and too upset about the draft. We will find out here early in the year if these guys can step up. And God for the Bengals, man, I hope these guys can step up. I'm pretty excited about some of these guys, seeing some of these guys play. And I'm also excited about the kid that got from the Ohio State, Seth McLaughlin, the center from Ohio State. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here, man. But at the end of the day, it's okay. You can be upset. You can be excited, but nobody knows. Nobody knows until this season starts. And I'm looking forward to getting to training camp and getting with these guys. So let's change the subject here, guys. We got a few more minutes. We've got to give away some FOCO hats. Tom, what do we want to do? A couple quick trivias, or what do we want to do?
Let's go back, Jimmy. Let's go back to our social media question on Thursday, right? We said with the 17th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, the Bengals select, and was it literally 0 people that said Shemar Stewart?
You posted it on Facebook. You can check Facebook. I didn't see anybody on Twitter get it right.
That selected that. So
the reason because everybody goes off the national draft people, or it's the same 5 to 6 people they select.
Well, let's be honest. If it was a Syracuse guy even in consideration, I would have said it was a Syracuse guy, but we had nobody in the top 5 rounds. I digress. But we appreciate everybody for their interaction there, and certainly there's some non-football stuff that we post on the social media channels, but that was a legitimate question. And I think it goes back to, the fan sentiment, looking at this draft, and we were all shocked, surprised, mad, angry, pissed off, whatever, use the term you want to use about who was selected in the first round. And quite frankly, Shemar Stewart was not one of the many, many names thrown about, whether it was offensive or defensive players. So as always, we appreciate FOCO for being being part of everything we do, whether it's on the online podcast, the tailgate, or the upcoming Jungle Jam. So somebody is going to walk away with some swag, despite not picking the 17th pick.
So, Tom, how do we want to do here, man? How are we going to give these away?
The first person that sends in right now the names, since we're talking defensive linemen, the names of the players that made up the web defense gets the first FOCO hat.
All 4 of them.
Actually, technically, there were 5 because one guy had a B and then he was traded, and they had another guy that they drafted with a B. So you got 5 players, WEBB. Who were the players that made up the web defense?
Tom, you and I might be the only 2 that know that, but let's see what happens here as we wait for the winners.
Lisa's not happy with that. Yeesh. That's not a yeet. That's not a Jey Uso WWE. That's a yeesh from Lisa. So let's see what everybody.
That's in the late 70s. Who made up that very good defensive line? Probably the best defensive line the team's ever had.
Yep. Agree. So we'll wait for your answers. Go ahead and post those in the chat area. While we do that, I'm posting right now in the chat area the link for Jungle Jam. We'll probably be announcing at some point this week the VIP tickets will be sold out. We have some other pretty big announcements.
Wait. I'm going to give a shout out to Lisa here from the Houday Ladies. It's going to be a big part of Jungle Jam, and I believe she joined you for the Thursday pre-festivities.
The Houday ladies were having a good time. The pre-draft pub crawl at the bank, so we had a really good time. I think every stop we made, there seemed to be another 20 or 30 people showing up. So we started out the Grail and went to Jefferson Social, then the Red Leprechaun. We totally packed out the Red Leprechaun. You guys.
Wait, here's John Stenger, our friend. Whitley,
yes.
Edwards, Burley, and Browner. Tom, is that a correct answer?
Boom. That is it. Okay. He could have said Bacon. The first year was Whitley, Edwards, Burley, Bacon. But
John, do you want the black hat or the orange hat, John?
John, you got to respond. Black or orange?
Black or orange.
A mesh hat. The other one's not.
And we could give him the NFL treatment and flip a coin.
Speaking of that, this is if you remember, we had a year of tickets last year. John was so gracious to help with that. Stay tuned. I believe our friends at the Alzheimer's Association are going to have a special year of tickets where if you haven't been fortunate enough to get Bengals tickets, stay tuned. John says orange. I think he's a closet Syracuse fan too. Hence why he said the orange. But congratulations to that. But what were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about Jungle Jam. We were talking about Houday Ladies. We were talking about all sorts of good stuff, Jimmy.
James been out drinking downtown all day, so he's all over the place. Tom, we got one more hat to give away. Keep this one for the younger fans. Come on, give them something easier. The younger fans.
Let's see. Who was the Bengals' first-round draft choice the day the guys started the show 6 years ago in 2020? Who was the Bengals' first-round draft pick?
It's got to be the first response we see pop up.
In 2020.
Tom went from extremely difficult level to novice here. So he went from one end of the spectrum to the other.
This was the year before Joe Burrow? It wasn't Joe Burrow.
2020.
2020.
The year before.
No, just 2020. Who was
Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow was 2020.
Oh, Tom, that is.
There you go.
Seriously, Tom.
Lisa, you win.
Tom is no longer allowed to ask trivia questions. He's fired from that role. Oh my gosh, Tom, you're fired.
So Lisa and John win the FOCO hats. Guys, we have other stuff to give away courtesy of FOCO. So the links that we post for FOCO, the bobbleheads, the other merch that we post, that link, there's a percentage of those sales that you guys buy from FOCO will be going to us that will be pushed to different charities throughout the year. We're kind of working on a way to kind of divvy that up. So anytime you see a link, you need something for birthdays, Christmas, whatever holiday it is, make sure you click those links we post and purchase through those links. So good stuff. But the Jungle Jam tickets,
Even
again,
Nancy's laughing at you, Tom. Nancy S is laughing at you. I think Nancy S.
Did Nancy know who was in the web defense?
Oh, Tom.
And Tom, I can't believe he has said anything about Tom. We've had some technical difficulty today. James is floating around a blue room right now. Tom's been frozen, but his audio has been awesome all day.
For whatever reason, tonight I have one bar, mysteriously.
One bar.
Your audio's been great. It's been fun.
I do apologize.
We're starting to GoFundMe for Tom's computer.
If that guy who would like to call in and complain every time I have a technical difficulty, if he'd like to write in, that'd be great. I just want a way to contact you back.
John is laughing at you all the way from Pennsylvania, Tom. All the way from Pennsylvania, he's laughing at you.
John, you should have sent in. You could have won a hat.
Look, poor Lisa had to refresh twice because you're frozen, Tom. You are just causing our listeners angst.
Way to go, Jimmy. Now they're blaming me. Everybody else thought it was them.
No, I'm just glad the audio worked. It worked good.
God.
There was probably 20 minutes. Hey, Tom, there was 20 minutes to show. Tom was like this.
You're like the guy in the worked for the CIA that leaked that the government killed Kennedy, not Oswald.
Oh my gosh.
60 years they had everybody thinking it was a skinny guy named Oswald.
Well, hey, here's the one thing. We're going to move forward because we're already what time are we in here?
We're 6 minutes over. Damn it.
6 minutes over. But May 14th for us diehard fans in NFL Kingdom, whether you're a Bengals fan like everybody watching tonight, but May 14th, I think the NFL announced on the draft night, we can finally plan our fall, whether that includes a trip to Spain, a trip to Ireland, no trip across the pond. So everybody just keep their fall travel plans because May 14th, which is I believe a Wednesday or Thursday night, we can finally plan our fall. For those that are watching from overseas, those that come to Cincinnati, those that live out of town, like John, he nailed it, schedule night, the president of the Pennsylvania Posse, we can actually plan our fall because probably 90% of us watching don't do anything from August forward. And now come May 14th, we can finalize our fall schedule.
Jimmy, have you heard anything about us going to Ireland?
No, I feel pretty confident. I bet the house on us going to Spain. So November 16th. But who knows? Who knows? But we did I do have a text here, James. I think you're on this text string. I think, Tom, we're going to have to implement a new process before we get on. We're going to have to do a breathalyzer test. Because James has been on a roll tonight. He's been downtown taking drinking a few coldies everywhere.
Is that from Jamie?
No.
It's from somebody else.
Well, let's go ahead and close it out, guys. Again, just
look at. We're allowed. That is Pete Rose night at GABP. So we're going to sit at Great American Ballpark. We're going to pull our phones out at 8 p.m. For those of you on the West Coast, that's 5 p.m. For those of you in England, that is 3 in the morning for Paul.
2 in the morning, Syracuse grad.
It's 8 hours ahead, right? Shut it.
It's 2 a.m.
2 a.m. So there you go. Damn it, we're gonna
keep an eye on social media. Keep an eye on social media this week. We have so we're going to start announcing more players Monday through Friday again. But we also have some other news that will be popping up this week. Hopefully by no later than Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll have some other big news we'll be sharing about Jungle Jam. But let's go ahead and close it out here tonight, guys. Anything else you guys want to talk about, James, Tom, before we get off here?
Jungle Jam. It was brought up to me. There was a card show signing this weekend in Cincy where player autographs were in excess of $20 a piece. come to Jungle Jam. You can get ex-Bengal greats for $25 for
Everybody.
multiple trips. Yeah,
everybody.
So in all seriousness, we're looking forward to Jungle Jam July 19th, Newport on the Levee. If you just want to come hang out, and air conditioning, 100% fine. If you want to be part of the VIP session, great. If you want the alumni autographs, great. But it's going to be another fun event. We've seen reservations from all over the country coming in, and we'd love to see you there. Follow our social media. Get your tickets. They will sell out 100%, so don't wait till the last minute. Jimmy's been doing the yeoman's effort for locking in so many of the Bengal greats, some of which are in the Ring of Honor, some of which will be in the Ring of Honor. Paul's question, if you get one of the autograph packages, they are included in the ticket. I think the alumni autograph session, $25 for 15+ alumni. And then if you want to be part of it, just come down and be part of it. But if you were there last year, it was fun. Kids face painting, Bengals vendors, Bengals fans, just truly a fun day. We'd love to see you part of it. And I'm going to shut up. Tom, what did I miss?
James, you did absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Just don't walk on the rail of a condo. But no, I'm going to quote Tom Cruise from a movie back in the 90s, The Firm. He was talking about a case he was presenting, and he said, it's not sexy, but it's got teeth. I think that was our draft this week, and it wasn't sexy, but it's got teeth. It's got guys that we needed, that we can use, that are going to help us win and make the franchise better. So there are those that don't like that. Fine, hate away. We're kind of immune at this point, but I don't love the draft. They could have done some things differently, but they went the way they did. These guys are going to help, and now that they're Bengals, I know we're all going to root our tails off for them. So we'll see you next Sunday night. Thanks a lot for jumping in with us. Jimmy?
Yeah, well said, Tom. Well said. So some names, guys. We'll put a list together. We've been announcing every day, Monday through Friday, players are going to be there. Kevin Case-Faharn, Mohamed Sanu, Reggie Williams, Isaac Curtis committed last week, Ted Karras, Ken Anderson, Carl Pickens, Jeff Blake. The names go on and on and on, guys.
Pat McAnally.
Pat McAnally. I mean, there's so many great names that are going to be. We have several current players that will be there. We're still working on it, confirming some really big name former players that can't make a decision until sometime late May. But telling you, there's only about 15 or 20 VIP tickets left. Remember, the VIP tickets get you in the VIP session, free food, drinks, everything part of that. There'll be 4 big name players, Q&A session, autographs, pictures with those. That also includes, if you buy that VIP session, the alumni autograph session is included in that VIP session. So the response has been just as good as last year. Remember, this is a free event. It's free. We'll have the 2025 season preview. We'll have a session that we did last year. We have the Jungle to the Hall program, which is how this whole thing started, with some really big name players at part of that. There's going to be a lot of kids face painting, balloons, magicians, a band. All that's going to be free, and a bunch of other things there as well that Levy's putting together for you as we speak. The only thing you have to pay for is that VIP session and or the alumni session if you want the autograph. So, guys, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. All this be, by the fans, for the fans, and you guys made it an unbelievable success last year. The city of Newport is excited to have it back this year as well. So, guys, we appreciate you guys being with us. Hey, remember, you should see our text streams going back and forth on, how good or bad the draft was. At the end of the day, we're all still fans. We're rooting for, Tom said it very well. Now these guys are on a team. We're rooting for these guys to be successful, to get us to the Super Bowl, man. So excited about the season. I think we've got about 130 days left until regular season. So, guys, we will see you next Sunday. We love you guys. Hoo day. Thank you.